Right, so moving along to Surah 90, Surah al-Balad, right, is entitled "The City." If we expand or open the meaning of this translation is the area, basically, a area of residence, right? So it doesn't have to mean the city, it can mean the village, it can mean the city, it could mean any particular place of residence or space of residence that one is residing, right? So it's talking about freeing messengers or people who deliver messages of God or messages from God, right? From restrictions of a particular area of residence, right? So if you live in a particular area of residence and you are restricted or you feel restricted, right? The surah is about freeing, right? Freeing somebody from freeing someone, freeing people from particular places of residence, right? Which is what I've been talking about throughout this entire thing about having people with wealth, land, properties all over the world or country or whatnot, right? Realize that you actually don't own these things. It's only here you could be at one point in time, right? You could only be at one place of residence at one point in time, right? If you have lands all over the place, right? You are not doing anything with that land. If you think you own that land in the world or the countries or whatever, you do not own that land, right? So it's freedom and helping people to free themselves, right? Who live in restrictive spaces and they want to get out of those spaces, right? Helping people to free themselves, right? Because there's only so much they holding on to the land and the property and so on that you own. When you are only you could only physically be at one place. We are not God. We are not God, right? You could only physically be at one place at one point in time, right? So helping people to free themselves, right? Whoever have the knowledge and know-how, right? The whereabouts, the knowledge of spaces, places in the country or in the world, right? Helping people to come out of restrictive places that they have been confined in, and expansion, right? Expansion of your life, right? Your worldview as well, and so on, right? Because man has been created into hardship, right? And Allah intends ease, right? Mankind has been created into hardship. Once you are born onto the earth, right, there's some obstacle, there's something to overcome, right? And Allah actually intends, right, going forward in time, right, for us to what? Try and forget these obstacles of the past and intends ease, right? To intend ease for people, right? And especially those who are in a commitment to move towards righteousness and so on, right? So mankind has been created into hardship. Does he not think that? Does he think that never will anyone overcome him, right? So it's about humbling yourself too, right? Because sometimes we think, oh, you might think you are the best in the world. I might think I am the best in the world, and so on, right? So it's a form of humility too. Does mankind think that never will anyone overcome him? Meaning that, hey, I could think I am best, you could think you are best, right? The best in the world and so on, right? But there's always somebody who is better, right? Just like you might think you are the best, you might think you can communicate information the best, you might think you might do something the best, cook the best, communicate information the best, share information the best, sing the best, right? But there's someone always who can do these things better. So it's a form of humbling oneself and saying, hey, right, there is always someone out there, right, who are better at something that I can do. So it's always a process of continuous learning too, right? So it's to not stop learning something as well, right? If you are in the path of knowledge or the path of learning, hey, there are people out there who can do this better, and so I too can improve. So it's not a sense of feeling being made to feel inferior to anybody else, but it's a sense that, hey, there are people out there who can do this better, right? So I too can advance in the way that I do this, right? So you have been created with two eyes, a tongue, two lips, right? And in essence, all your human faculties, right? You have been created, and we have been created with all our human faculties, right? And this is what God is asking us, Allah is asking us to use in the advancement of His goodness and righteousness and service, right? So the chapter talks about breaking through the difficult paths. Difficult paths meaning the obstacles or the hill, right? Hill, the hills or the incline, right? On the straight and narrow path is basically an incline, right? The straight and narrow path is basically a hill. It's climbing, right? It's like climbing up a hill, uphill climb, right? So certain things can help you to break through this incline or this obstacle, right? Is the freeing of a, which shouldn't be really seen as an obstacle, but it is for your own soul, right? The freeing of a slave or feeding on a day of severe hunger, right? These things could help you to overcome these obstacles. Freeing of a slave, the feeding of a day on a day of severe hunger, and orphan of near relationship or a needy person in misery, right? And being among those who believe and advise others into patience and advise others into compassion, right? So these are the things, right? And when you give, you don't give for the camera, obviously, right? So you make this point over and over and over. When you are given, right, you don't give for show, right? It's not a show thing, right? But you give just because, right? So this is where this chapter ends. So we'll pick up with the next chapter tomorrow.